Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please allow me to address the notion that the do-nothing solution was the best or better solution. The do-nothing solution assumes that things couldn't have gotten worse. The recession of 1929, which was the Great Depression, disproves this. Things could have been worse. How soon we forget? Bear Stearns, Lehman, AIG, banks were not lending to each other. I was here. I saw it unfold before my very eyes. Banks refused to lend to each other. How soon we forget. Rush to judgment. Somehow we went to bed one night, came to work the next day, and created Dodd-Frank. Not so. Amendments. 120 Republican amendments considered, 46 roll call votes for Republican amendments, 51 Republican amendments accepted, 134 Democratic amendments, 24 bipartisan amendments. Debate time, a total of 15 hours and 41 minutes, and this is with reference to the Financial Stability Improvement Act. There was careful, considerable deliberation before this legislation passed. Small banks. There is a deep abiding affinity for small banks among the members of this committee. Unfortunately, when we try to do something for small banks, by the way, 90% of all banks in this country are small banks, 90% plus, and they're under $1 billion. We could pass legislation for small banks, but for the fact that when we try to do something for the small banks, it becomes legislation that will also impact $50 billion banks. Huge banks. I support doing something for small banks and will work with anyone who wants to do something for small banks. But I refuse to allow the facade of small banks to become what's called a community bank that's worth $50 to $100 billion or even more. We've had one witness who said that any bank can be a community bank. So I no longer use the term community bank because we're not talking about the mega banks. I agree with the concern for small banks. Want to do something about it. But we can't do it if we continue to allow the mega banks to drive the legislation. And that's what's happening here. The mega banks want legislation, so they use the small banks to accomplish their ends. This is the real deal. This is what's going on. How soon we forget. I think another appropriate title for the hearing would be, let's get back to business as usual. Let's get back to no Financial Stability Oversight Council. It's not perfect. What is? But it does provide us at least an opportunity to look for the next crisis. Ending too big to fail? Well, why not have a means by which you can wind down the next AIG? Doesn't mean that you won't have a bank that's so big or some institution that's so big that it can't have an impact, but it does mean that we have a way now to deal with it. We didn't have that before Dodd-Frank. Let's get back to business as usual. Stock market's at an all-time high. Big investment banks and companies are making lots of bucks. We're here trying to help them make more money when we got people working at minimum wages and can't take care of their families. When are we going to hear something about raising the minimum wage? We take care of those at the top at the expense of those at the bottom. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
The gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Hill, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks